So, is it another case of denial on the graft narrative by government? Let's cross over to Larry Madowo now, who is standing by in Mombasa. Larry, you have the man himself, government spokesperson Eric Kiraithe, to clarify exactly what he meant when alluding to foul play in the recent corruption allegations hitting various government institutions.
All right, many thanks, Vicky. I'm here with the government spokesman, Eric Kiraithe, as you mentioned. It's stunning what you've been saying. Are you saying that there's no corruption happening in government? Is that what you're saying?
Madowo, what is really astonishing this government is that the architects and beneficiaries of the historical corruption in this country can dare assemble in public in a ceremony to mark homecoming of a religious leader and mislead Kenyans. But be that as it may, let us accept that this country has had its moment on the road to Damascus. You know, if you want to remember, Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus after he had continuously persecuted the Christians.
What do you mean?
What I mean is that the people who have benefited from corruption, they were in positions in government, never raised a finger. The people who supplied air to the government and got paid are the people congregating today to condemn a government which, for the first time in its life, this government within its life has arrested cabinet ministers, taken them to court.
Nobody has gone to court yet, but is it your argument?
This is a government. If you say nobody has gone to court in NYS scandal, in other scandals, if you are saying that no cabinet minister has been told to step aside, then you must be coming from the moon tonight.
I mean, nobody has been convicted. Despite the high-profile corruption cases, nobody has been convicted.
Yes, the judiciary has been very clear, and you and I know that governments, especially in our current dispensation, do not convict people.
True. But is it your argument, just going to what you said earlier, is it your argument that CORD or any other leaders do not have a right to talk about corruption because they too were corrupt?
Oh my, they have every right to talk about corruption, and every Kenyan who has any shred of responsibility and who wants to move into the future must talk about corruption. And this government has taken the talk about corruption to State House. Are you trying to say that is not a first in this country's history?
It was a first. People criticize that as just a blame game. All the agencies blamed the other agency and no tangible way forward was given.
They gave about 250 cases of corruption which have been investigated and forwarded to court. And for the blame game, they were told off by no less a person than His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta, who made it quite apparent that the taxpayer in this country is not paying taxes so that the thieves can be convicted after 20 years or the cases can be thrown away after 20 years.
That is correct.
The way we have seen with Goldenberg, the way we have seen with Anglo Leasing, the way we have seen with the Youth Fund, which happened during the life and leadership of the people who are now standing holier than thou. I even saw a former Attorney General, and let me tell you, I felt a bit ashamed.
So Amos Wako, Raila Odinga, these people should not be talking about corruption.
Every Kenyan, I'm not mentioning any names here, I'm not here to talk about people. Every Kenyan must talk about, and not only talk about, fight corruption in their own small way, in their own big way. But you should not become holier than thou today and become a fox who has worn the sheep's skin and start telling Kenyans I'm a champion against corruption. While we know, it's only that we don't talk like journalists.
Hang on. You said that the stories that about corruption have been made up by the media. Is that your position?
The stories about corruption in this country, NYS, have been committed by people who are known and whom the government is saying should be prosecuted and jailed.
The deputy president, hang on, the deputy president told us when the NYS scandal broke out that no money was lost. He's now changed his mind and says Waiguru should carry her cross. Is this the same thing that's going to happen about the health ministry, about all these other scandals?
I am telling you this, and I'm on record on saying, for example, in the health ministry, up to today, we don't know whether money has been stolen. But what we know is that the current government has carried out an audit for the last financial year, not for 10 years ago. We are not waiting for 2020. We are investigating currently, and if anybody is found to have stolen money through evidence, and we hope everybody is becoming very diligent with the investigations. No, suckers. Let those people be tried and put to jail now. In fact, the president said he has relieved the jail of chicken thieves so that these big-time thieves go in. And we hope every Kenyan is listening and every Kenyan can see the need why we cannot move this country forward when taxpayers' money is being stolen.
Spokesman Eric Kiraithe is still here with me. Is it your contention that all of the talk about corruption has been manufactured by either the media or the politicians?
They talk about golden bag, they talk about Anglo-leasing, it is not manufactured. They talk about NYS, and any other one in between or to come is not manufactured. What is manufactured is when His Excellency the President takes the discourse on corruption right to State House and tells the government agencies you are concerned, wake up. I talk to him, I know him, he means it.
Isn't that exactly the sign that there's a corruption problem? So you can't come here and deny it when the president himself admits there's a problem and I'm going to host a corruption summit at State House. But you're denying all of this has been made up by the opposition politicians and by the media.
I don't know what the name denial means to you. I've never denied there is corruption in this country, and no sober person can deny there is corruption. There is corruption. We have more than our share of corruption. But we can say this government has demonstrated historically, more than any other government, that corruption must be fought from top to bottom. But corruption fights back. And the way it has fought back in this particular occasion is to take every project this government has implemented. By the way, SGR is a program of the 80s. Everybody talked about it, picked public money, went away. The digital literacy program, where standard 1 pupils are having laptops today in several parts of the country. It is well intended. The youth empowerment program, whether a few criminals stole money or not, must go on.
Hang on, let me talk about, for instance, from the very time this government came into power, there was the Hustlers Jet, which was a scandal from the very beginning.
This was not a scandal. What people were not happy about is that some politicians in this country saw the ICC as the opportunity to put their opponents out of service. And of course, Kenyans are very romantic about jet and flying. That is why governors are using taxpayers' money to fly from village to village in helicopters to look important. The issue, when you are traveling to 5 capitals in Africa with a delegation of 5 or 6 or 10, it is economical and it is really a logical thing to get a jet for that delegation, because you won't ever do it in a commercial airline. So
the deputy president has recently been going around, especially West Africa and Central Africa, campaigning for Ambassador Amina Mohamed's candidacy for the Africa Union chairperson. How much money was used for this, and who was hired for this?
I really don't know the facts, but I can tell you, as a person very experienced in aviation myself, it is much more economical when you have a big delegation and several destinations to use a chartered jet.
Even when it's hundreds of millions of shillings?
What is here is that a commercial flying will take much more time and cost much more. It's about economies of scale. If you are flying alone or 2 or 3 people, it is always economical to use the commercial airlines. It makes sense. But if you are flying of a delegation of 10 people, using a chartered jet is much, much cheaper, and this is scientific. This is an issue of calculations you can make. One thing I cannot come here and tell Kenyans, in every procurement in this country, in several procurement, there is usually corruption. So if there is a wrong done within the procurement process, we must know that the deputy president does not hire jets. He gets his office to hire jets. And if my memory serves me right, there are people who handled that procurement process who have been thrown out of the government as we are talking today.
So your argument is that it's not the deputy president's fault, it is the people, the procurement people, and the executive is not responsible for this.
It is responsible for sacking them, which it did, and submitting them to the agents of those who investigate corruption, which is it did. And let us assure Kenyans, this government will prosecute anybody and everybody who gets into corruption, even if it is Eric. And those who enjoyed past corruptions, your time is coming also.
All right, we'll leave it there. Eric Kiraithe, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate it. That is the government spokesman talking about and pushing back really on the reporting that the media has been doing on corruption, including we here at NTV and the Nation Media Group.